welcome everyone. This is Michelle Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show. This is my finale of my season 7. Y'all, I'm so excited. I'm so thankful. Can't believe this. I'm so happy. Alright, this is episode 67 of my Mole short stories. So we're going to get into this. This is going to be episode 67. And I want to take this moment to kind of look back my journey. It's a celebration of I'm wrapping up season 7. I really enjoyed this season, this year. It gave me a lot of opportunity to kind of do other things and bring back previous stories and bring it further, bringing more people into my writing. And I just love this season. I love all my seasons. This one just in particular, because I was able to diversify in that sense. I rolled out the Mole Love Groove, brought back Nahar and Princess Aamina, be able to tap into more characters and the ones that didn't get to be in the book. I want to take this moment to talk about Mitsrayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt. It's my heart because I didn't plan to write it. It just kind of opened up one day when I was in my hometown that I grew up in, and this song played before when I was growing up, but that particular day after work, it played on the radio. And exactly when it was time for me to, at a certain point, it just flashes of images of Egypt, and I saw it through my eyes. So from that point, I had to write it on a piece of paper, and I did. And it just led to 50 pages, and then from there, I just kept going. When I had shared the manuscript to some people, and they just kept saying, "Oh my gosh, keep going." I'm thinking, really? And that's before I even knew I was a writer and author. So from there, I just kept going, and the next thing I know, I was just writing nonstop. So that's part of the main journey of Mitsrayim, a memoir in a past life in ancient Egypt. So it was over 20 years ago. So fast forward, here I am doing a podcast show. It's before the timeline of the book and still connected, right? And some of the characters, when I wrote the book, it was just so surreal. It was just epic, right? I always envisioned it as a movie, never as anything else. And when I arrived in Atlanta, what have you, that was my dream. And then, as I mentioned before, if you listen to some of my other podcast shows, sometimes you think people are for you and they're really just trying to sabotage you. And they don't take your moderation and their influence, and they misguide you because they don't want you to reach your dream. And that might be something not motivational, like, wow, really? But that's reality. Unfortunately, you have people like that. And so I went the other way based on not really good sound advice. Mitsrayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt, Mole, Egypt, my Malay short, I call it Malay short stories. All of this is really a film. That's my dream, because that's how I saw it. That was my experience before I shared anything. Really, the book is like a journal, a book of memories. And I shared it. And then you get around people that don't appreciate it and want to take it from you by just saying, well, I like the stories, but I don't really think you can do this, but I showed them what I can do. I am a leader. I am a motivational, and I am inspiring, and I am a giver. I'm not a taker. And so that's what that is about, the circle of life. That's what you have to be. So in my book, Mitsrayim, a memoir, it talks about those moments of choices and understanding and love and the power of choice. Some people choose wisely, some people don't. You go to a balance. So that's what my book is about. That's what my podcast is about, and my other podcast show, Surviving Your Journey. And it all comes back to what really love is. Mitsrayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt. It's about love. It's about true love. That's gold, because you're not really tapping into materialistic things. You're tapping into the energy of how you feel about somebody else, and it's sharing. When I hear the word love, I hear the word sharing. So when I shared my manuscript when I arrived in Atlanta, it was those people that just want to focus on their career. You see, the taking just themselves. And I stayed like in the background. I just wanted to have my story, to share that, to share the message and have it manifest. Even though I was in a different medium, I wasn't doing it as a film because I was told, no, just do it. And of course, I did that short film of it, but that's really not what I wanted. It's a feature film type book. It's a feature film type story. It was feature film in my mind and in my eyes when I saw the images and I felt the energy of all of them, and I wrote it non-stop in 60 days, in less than 60 days. I wrote that manuscript. Before, it was kind of like, okay, we could talk about Egypt and its black folks and all of that, but I did that. Nichelle Anderson did that. And it was a wonderful experience. So when you listen to these short stories, it's coming from a lot of love, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. Being an author and a writer, I should say, you give it your all, and it's the words you put on the book is a part of you that you're sharing. Just like you a Thanksgiving dinner and you got people coming over and you did all this food and all this cooking. Well, that's what writing is in a sense, and those that write know what I'm talking about. And my Malay short stories, I'm breaking it up as a short story, but it's really a long saga, comic book series. All that is coming from a different angle, but going to the main route, which is my book. It was the first manuscript, but it was the second book I got published. And it's my heart, I love it. It's my memories. I was able to tap into that. There was some people that had reviewed it right before that year, whatever. But there was some beautiful words about my book and how it influenced them, how they felt, how I was taking them through. They just connected with all of it. And the platform that had the reviews removed it. I don't know. Anyway, and I don't know if they ever would get to listen to this podcast, but I remember it took like a couple years. I was so busy trying to get everything situated here. I finally just went out there and saw what they wrote about my book, kind and sweet things, and how they was just memorized by it. So as an author and a writer, when you write the book, you write it and you just want people to connect and see your message. But when you get to really listen to see how you influence someone, how you able to bring these worlds into their lives, and they're influenced, they're inspired by it, and they describe it. It's just a wonderful feeling. It's like sitting down, sharing tea, and you're just having a good old talk, and they're listening and they're understanding, and you can break down the characters and have a better understanding of it and how it motivates you. It's a wonderful, loving experience, and I just want to say thank you to those people that took the time to do that. And I was able to read it before the platform took it off for whatever reason. That's between them and God. But nonetheless, I really want to say thank you for that, because I love it. Was an experience of a lifetime to write that book. When I was seeing the scenes, and each time it wouldn't, in a sense, allow me to see the scene until I wrote it on, type it up, old school. And I typed it up, and then I could see the next scene, and it just connected like a puzzle. And before I knew it, I was done. So it was just magnificent, and it was like watching a movie. So that's my goal, is to make that happen. That's still my dream. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up for season 7, y'all. Episode 67, King's rule over Tiamat secures the Astar. All right, let's get started. And before we get started, do you check me out on social media? Do check out my music? Check the links in the description and share this, okay? All right, do check out my NFTs. Basically, just look in the description and y'all got it. All right, we're finna do this. my finale episode. In the last episode, episode 66, we talk about ruling response to the position of King Mahlon's speech as Orion sets a new path, and that's where that's going to the finale last year. That's it's kind of generation, right? So last month was where ruling. And definitely go back in my earlier episodes to catch up who was ruling, what's all that about. Queen Hagar and Mahlon, they don't like one another, but he still loved, and respect Queen Hagar. So we're going to get into this one. We're going to get into it. All right? And just to back up on this particular episode 67, it's the elders of Tahiv, the brothers of Ankui and King Mahlon with his family returns to Tiamat for his communication of the planned action to investigate. That's what we're going to talk about today. Those responsible for the battle and collective effort to join in forces for a new brotherhood in the region. Then we have young Daniy'el, the future ruler of Kodesh, and young Princess Hannah as an attendance observing the interaction of the major meeting led by King Mahlon and Mitsrayim. While in Sabawe, we learn of more of King Kohan, the stepfather Jamal, and someone new to the storyline of Mitsrayim book and the podcast timelines. You got to listen to this. All right, let's get started. Let's begin. For my finale show of Season 7, 2023 to 2024, for this week of my podcast show, Nichelle Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond, this is my finale show. I'm wrapping up Season 7, y'all. My Mole, Short Stories, Episode 67, King's Rule over Tiamat secures the Astar. Opening scene. As the steps to the throne of King Mahlon rise ever so higher than the plateau of the tribal leaders that stood before him, and the Ankui brothers, Enlil and Nagal, along with young Daniy'el sitting to his father's Nagal right side, looked on. It was Queen Hagar on her throne behind where King Mahlon stood speaking to the tribal leaders, as young Princess Hannah looked onward to the many tribal leaders listening to her father speak other matters before them. The young Princess Hannah was also with her grandmother, Queen Hagar Mana, and grandfather Tahiv. They were sitting nearby, observing the speech by King Mahlon, but as well watchful of young Princess Hannah, as always ready to not sit down so still in matters like this. As the proceeding about to start, we see young Daniy'el sitting on a mini throne, leaning over to his father Nagal to ask of this before him. Young Daniy'el said, "Which of this will be the future of the tribal leaders within the following of King Mahlon?" Nagal responded, "It would be in the best interest, and you will hear the master leader of King Mahlon to collate the tribal leaders to follow him, as that is the way of kings rule on Tiamat, of their influence brings forth power." The young Daniy'el's eyes widened with wonder and awe, and he turned to look straight ahead as he sat, now eager to hear King Mahlon's response to the tribal leaders, by saying, "I am much eager to be one of the kings of Tiamat, within the domain of Kodesh, in the future time of my inheritance, father." Nagal looked over to his son and smiled before returning to hear what King Mahlon was about to say. With over 100 to 200 tribal leaders in attendance in the throne room, now staring and listening to King Mahlon speak to his travels, two Pleiadians, and now he'll return to his rulership of ancient Egypt, Mitsrayim, for they was much rated for his speech, to which will be the next step for movement in the direction of the overall realignment to the king's rule on Tiamat. we see King Mahlon's crown rise as solid gold sparkling in the ever-so spew as it nestled silent to the whim of the Kingo waves behind them. He spoke with authority. King Mahlon said, "In these times of movement to the next realm of our existence, I see the collective effort for our brotherhood to stay on the path that leads to our all victory. It's not of one as the king ruler of Tiamat and Mitsrayim, but of each of you to honor not my only leadership on this planet therein, but to communicate in a way that serves all our people within the territories outlined by those of Ankui of Simna, who stands with Mitsrayim of the allegiance to vote for the order of realignment of who's on the Congenial Member Council." "I," said the rest of the tribal members as they nodded in agreement. I. Meanwhile, we are in Zimbabwe at King Mahlon's palace as he is sitting down having dinner while the Kingo waves just finished nestling in the after SB rays gave it to the next moment of time of the evening hours. King Mahlon, that will be the stepfather of Dama, is about to take another bit of his food, wearing a sharu robe of colors of maroon emerald green, exposing his jewelry and shiny round crown on top of his woolly hair. He wanted to travel back to Mitsrayim, but had promised to have dinner with one he had long admired as he paused before eating his next bite and looked down to the other end of his raw wooden table. It was Anna Inataskala from Palladians and the mother of young Daniy'el, and will be of another son named Dama. The King Mahlon knew about the situation, but still loved her ever since first seeing her on his trip to Palladians, and vowed to woo her to be his. She was known that she revealed a way a few Aspu times ago to be with possible child, but no other word was heard. As she was wearing a long olive yellow light dress, exposing her left shoulder and jewelry with long Nubian curls, pulled to exposing a huge gemstone hair quartet. Her skin glistened as in the Kingo rays that lightly melodied to the sound of the music played by King Mahlon musician in the far end of the dining room. As the open floor-length windows of 8 exposed provided a cool breeze from the nearby waterway to the palace, when suddenly she placed down her fork and spoke to his amazement. She said, "I have made my decision of your conquest to my heart, to yours." King Mahlon slowly sipped his wine before placing it back down. She continued, "I will decide to be of yours, and my son will be yours to lead and move onward within the divinity he was granted by one of the Ankui. Are you of acceptance of that, King Mahlon?" He smiled and lifted his hands in acceptance as repositioned his wine to celebrate, and then clapped his hands where several female attendants with trays of food and drinks entered. King Mahlon said, "I am honored of your acceptance to my proposal, and I will be the most enduring father to your child and you." He then went to where she was sitting and kneeled down to present her a very large diamond ring encrusted with emerald that were mined from Zimbabwe mines, and placed it on her hand. She gasped at the size and beauty and was speechless of how always the love King Mahlon showed her, that she only wished she knew that beforehand, as her heart was so entwined with Nadal of Ankui, but knew for a future of her and her other child that she is carrying that the path leading to King Kohan's arm would be the only way to secure such a status of royal that she felt she deserved, and that her son as well. With all her might and previous rejection to stay on Tiamat, she held back the preference and doubt for the future would she rather be in Pleiadians, and said to King Kohan, "My stay here in Sababa would be of me of a new beginning as your wife. I accept." He stood up, and so did she, and King Kohan kissed him back, and they hugged, as unknowing to him at the moment in bliss. Rather, she let go a tear of a dream to returning back to Pleiadians, and the dream of a wife of Ankui, and managed to accept that the moments that she shared with Ankui that led to her to be carrying a future child of an Ankui will now be raised in Zimbabwe. She managed to nod and still said she accepted the moment to be the wife of one of the king's rule of Tiamat, King Kohan. End scene.